And we are back. Tremendous amount of times. Okay, what were you saying about your
I
teacher?
was just about to say I had a teacher when I was younger that told me I wouldn't amount to anything, basically. And yeah, I suppose she was right for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, you quadrupled her pay last year, but
Yeah. Um, but I mean, it's one of those things where I went through like job after job after job and just not finding, what I wanted to do and just working and doing things and whatnot. Work to a lot of people is just
mhm,
9 to 5 going in, making your paycheck.
yeah, it's doing the thing you don't want to do.
Yeah. And I grew up with a dad who hated his job.
Ooh,
He worked at Uniroyal Goodrich in Kitchener there,
yeah,
making tires. It was Michelin after a while. Michelin bought it. And yeah, his shift sucked. He hated going there. And I think it was one of those things where he started working there. It was good money
yeah,
and then it was like his way of providing for his family and stuff, which is very noble.
totally, man. I
Um,
would rather be upset than my kids be upset.
yeah, right. I mean, I would do whatever, I would work whatever job I have to,
For sure.
in order to provide for my family,
Yeah,
if that's what I have to do, right? I found out, like when I grew up, I played hockey and stuff,
yeah,
and like that's not a cheap sport. That's pretty expensive. And as I got older and got better, and um, I started playing rep hockey in Kitchener,
that's a big one.
and it turned out like a lot of the almost every actual tournament that I had to go on, I had to go with someone else's family,
Yeah,
which hurt me a lot back
like
then.
they weren't coming. Yeah,
And then I realized my dad was staying at home to work overtime so that he could afford to send me
that's right.
on these tournaments, which is crazy. Because I mean, realistically, I'm sure I would have, even like the person who I was back then would have been like, it's cool. I don't need to play this.
Yeah, I don't need to do that.
I can go and play like a league below where we don't travel all over the place and you
Yeah,
don't have to spend all this money. Um, because I mean, I don't think it was ever really in my head that I was like going to be some
no, yeah,
NHL hockey player or anything. I just love playing the game, right? Um, but yeah, like my dad did that for me,
yeah.
you know?
You don't realize those things till it's over,
Yeah,
and then it's very humbling looking back on those experiences of how you felt at the time and how you feel about it now. Like just what you were talking about. It's crazy, man. Yeah, my dad worked a lot.
yeah,
Um so he was one of those guys that just did the shitty work all the time. I think that's where I get it from. And I'm
yeah.
not sure if I get it from him or my grandfather because we didn't really spend a whole lot of time. But whatever one of the two of them, that's where I get it from. And that ended up sending him to like Libya
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, and like Saudi. And he would go do that. He came back with pneumonia so bad when they drew his blood, it was black.
Holy.
Like, and he was just working,
Yeah,
and like, yeah, he was just never around. Well, no shit, and we were all doing just fine. And but that's why.
yeah,
Right. My mom had a great job too. She was a nurse. Um, Actually, funny story. Yeah, like adventuring is a big part of my life. So my grandfather's, or my papa, I should say, his whole family were like fucking shine runners or something. We all came to find out.
no shit.
Yeah, and then so my mom, she gets out of nursing school, and I don't know if she couldn't find a job or what it was, and she ended up going up north to an Indian reserve, like a fly-in place. And that's where she did a lot of her, like, grinding.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. So under the stairs there, they tried to throw all this shit out when they moved, and I was like, absolutely not. But she's got like a whole like leather like Indian setup, like the whole top to bottom. Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's pretty cool shit.
That's awesome. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, it's you really do have to take a look at that kind of shit though, especially as a parent, where like if you feel like you're failing or you're doing too much, it's whatever. Eventually, they're all going to see what it is.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of what it looks like today.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, even what I'm doing, working Nathan's drywall
Mhm.
and stuff. It started out, and I mean, like I said, my wife has her own two places. that she works out of, and this kind of works for us, you know. I was listening to you talk about how like people say, oh, they're so busy, but then they list off like only like 30 hours worth of shit that they're doing in a week. And I think like, oh fuck, like must be nice type of thing, you know? I don't know when it was last time that I only had 30 hours worth of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit, man, I only work like 6 hours a day. But then I'm like, well, I wake up, you know, I'm with my wife, she gets breakfast ready, you know, we get the kids off to school, I take them to the bus, then I
You
go
got
to
a
work,
routine.
and then yeah, I get home, and then I got the kid. She usually works later
Yeah.
and everything because she's a massage therapist. So there's lots of people that are getting massaged once they're done work, right? So that's kind of her hours. And yeah, so I mean, it kind of it works for us. I think about those days when, you know, I used to work commercial drywall and I would work 6 in the morning, or I telling you earlier, like I would show up at like 2 in the morning. So
Yeah.
there's some of the guys would hate me. What time you want to show up tomorrow? I'd be like, I don't know, I'll come in at like 1.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you. You're coming in at 1? I'd be like, yeah, that's
1?
fine. You don't want to come in at 1? Okay, what time you guys want to come in at? I don't care.
Yeah.
And I'll work till whenever. Like I remember working 18-hour days, going from one job and then another job. Oh, we're not allowed to start this job until the office people go home, and then we're allowed to go to that building and work there. Okay, cool. And then we'll work there till like 1 in the morning,
Yeah.
you know, and then start again next day at 6 a.m. I missed that, man.
You know, I missed that about the first year too, where it was like we had like 3 and 4 jobs at one time at one point, and
Yeah,
it was like you could, if you wanted to work 24 hours a day,
you
you could.
could, yeah.
I missed that a little
Yeah,
bit.
or I miss like I remember my boss sometimes. Like I said, we did a lot of Tim Hortons renovations and everything.
Which are wild.
Oh man, it's like crunch time, man. Like this shit's got to get done.
And there's not, they know down to the $5 what it costs to build one of those things.
Oh yeah,
And that's what they expect. And if you get good, there's a lot of them to build.
yeah, and that's I was told like if you can start running one of these Timmies as like you know the drywaller, you can run it for the drywallers and the tapers. You finish that shit in 4 weeks or less, you're making the company money. You're gonna get a raise. You're gonna like they're gonna want to keep you on. It's like, okay, and like that was my goal. All right, like I'm here to make money. I'm here to run this stuff. Um, but yeah, they would like, you know, after I had kids and stuff like that, things kind of changed, you know. It was like my wife making what she makes an hour to what I was making an hour working
Yeah.
for a commercial drywall company, and they'd be like, hey, we need you to come in on the weekend. They need this Tim Hortons done. And I'd be like, yeah, I can't, man. I got my kids.
Yeah.
They'd be, oh man, we'll pay you time and a half. Yeah, sorry, man, I got my kids.
That's like not even close
We'll
to
pay you double time.
Yeah.
I had them up to triple time once, and I was like, look, man, honestly, like the company that I worked for, I told you, man, it was my best friend's younger brother and
Yep.
dad. I love these guys. All right. And I told them, I was like, look, man, I would come in for straight time
Mm-hmm.
if I could. I'm like, but I got my kids. I can't.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, that's the end. I'm like, I don't care. And like, I was a part of that team. It wasn't about the money. I
No,
was like, I wanted to come, I want to work for you guys.
I can't come in. That's why I'm not at work.
Yeah, for the longest time, like that's where I thought my career was going.
Yeah.
If you ask me, I'm like, this is where I'm going to be at. 10 years from now, I'm going to be working for these guys. My goal was to like, eventually, I'm going to be the guy driving around from site to site, making sure everything's going well.
Yep.
And then,
Yeah, that's a loyalty thing.
yeah,
I think where you pick a place to stick your flag, and then you're like, I'm gonna be here when I'm 60.
yeah,
And that's how I'm gonna compose myself every day. That's what good people do.
yeah,
But when you're doing it for a different company every other fucking year, like I that's how I compose myself for a while.
yeah,
And I would like post up like this is the next fucking thing, right? And until you hit that road bump of like either you butt heads with someone, or you run out of stuff to learn, or
yeah,
a million things, safety. um yeah, I think I did that 4 or 5 times in my career,
yeah.
where I was like, I'm gonna be here forever. Fucking 6 months later I'm somewhere else.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I work
Most these guys. No,
Yeah.
there was never a lot of that. And for the amount of places that I've worked, there was not a lot of fuck yous.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, because I don't care, man. Right. And I do feel like I was paid correctly, if not less. I
Yeah,
think for everywhere until I really figured it out.
yeah,
But you know, I'm sure if I went back to go work for anyone that I'd worked for before, they'd be happy about it.
yeah,
I would think. Well, there's There's two people in particular that wouldn't.
That wouldn't
But
be.
out of the whole thing, not so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I could. I mean, I don't know if I would be able to go back to these guys or not. I would like to think
Personality
I
type,
would
dude.
be able to. I mean, I think it's more that you know, I chose to move on, and
People respect that.
I think maybe like if I were to go back there, I think they would kind of think that too. Like, well, you chose to leave, man, and then maybe it's just not the,
Yeah.
like don't come back.
The guy,
I try not to backstep
I never burn
doing things,
and if I do, it's because it needs to be burned.
Yeah,
Right? It's
yeah,
one or the other.
absolutely.
I'm always honest with everyone. And sometimes people don't like that and they can deal with it. And sometimes people need to hear things that are probably a little rougher than what they should have. But
Yeah,
in those situations, I'm not sure I would want to go back and work for those people, right? Like
yeah, absolutely.
it was so offside that you were like, fuck this. Um, yeah, I don't know. You gotta be honest. You can't just be fucking people over all over the place. It is such a small community. And you never know where people are gonna go to,
Yeah.
right? Like a couple of times in my career, even from my sales to construction career, people have
Oh yeah.
crossed my paths. Yeah, 3 times.
Oh wow.
Yeah, now the one guy was from Future Shop when I was working there, and he's kind of a dink, and he wasn't very good at construction. Like he was who he was over there, except it was working with your hands, and it was even worse. Nice guy,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And like the company that I ended up leaving, I talked to the owner when I left, and I said, you know, he's never going to fuck you over, and let him try everything that he wants to try, but he needs to be in some sort of not managerial role, but like the guy that's keeping like quality control,
Yeah,
something like that,
yeah.
right? Where when you've got an honest person, there's a place for that. And if you suck on the tools and you're honest, there's a place for that too. Like the framing company that I worked for when I did all the corrections,
Yeah.
he paid an old fella a square foot price to double check work. So before the house was handed back over to the client, this guy would go through with a big square that unfolded.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had lasers, yeah, and he would just double check everything.
Wow.
If everything is everywhere it needs to be, and then he would submit his own list. And then when they went through for their deficiencies, like there would be stuff that the one guy found that the company didn't find,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, yeah, because they're probably looking harder too, maybe.
Well, he definitely is because
Yeah.
he's being paid a good wage to do it.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, like you cannot have a person in that position that you don't trust
Yeah.
because they're just gonna go, yeah, I checked it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I worked for a machine company. We ran like CNC machines and stuff, made pipe for the oil fields,
Yeah.
made gas lines and stuff. And some line of pipe would call for a third party inspector, right? So they'd have that third party inspector would come in and make sure everything's on the up and up, because there's like such minuscule tolerances for something like that, right? Like in your thread and your seal of your pipe, like you're running oil rigs,
Yeah.
like you don't want that shit blowing.
Well, and if it has like a tremendous spike in pressure that lenience is at the peak of what your lenience is, and shit is not 1,000% correct, it's gonna blow.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you do not want to be, responsible for that. Not at all. Even like I think about, so we would do couplings and everything, which are just like smaller pipe that would connect the pipe together, right? Um, like a nut almost, I guess, for like a screw or bolt or whatever. And we would check those. So we'd bring them into this unit with a black light, and you'd have this liquid with metal shavings in it.
No shit.
So you spray the liquid over top of the and in the coupling and everything.
Yeah.
And then you'd magnetize it and then shine the black light on it. And if there's a crack anywhere, those metal shavings would be like attracted to that crack. So you would be able to see with the solution would be like ultraviolet or whatever.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you see where the cracks are. But I mean, I never found one.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you how many I've looked through. And I mean, eventually you get to the point where you're just like, yep,
Yeah.
yep, okay, we're good.
I'm
And you
not
just send
even
it
sure
out.
this
Like,
stuff works.
yeah, exactly. Right. You're like, I don't know.
Oh,
Oh God.
yeah,
And
but that's good.
I think like, God, I hope like nothing ever blew up on the oil rigs or something like
Right?
that
Your
because of
lights
me.
or something.
Like
Yeah.
everything's stamped with a code and everything, and you sign off on everything. So your name's there. So
Yeah, but I feel like that's probably one of those things that if there was a problem, it would probably be screaming at you.
oh,
Right.
I would think so. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when you're into specific solutions and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I mean, we found cracks, not me specifically, but
Yeah.
I mean, like there
They
were
were right there.
cracks
Yeah.
found. So I always like to think like, okay, like you said, like it would be screaming at you. You would see it. So,
Jesus.
but I mean, what a, position to be in, really.
Oh yeah.
In your 20s, not giving a fuck about anything, just checking these
Hungover.
pipes.
Yeah.
Ah, God.
That's why there's like a zero drinking policy in some of these places. Everywhere's drug tested. Like it's
Yeah. And these so this company, it was funny. So I started out as like a laborer,
yeah.
working just, the tools, big saws and stuff like that, cutting pipe. And I wanted to learn like the CNC machine. So they wanted to get me on there, and I'd get on the CNC machine here and there, which is hilarious. It's horrible at math in school, but every job I've had since I got out of school has been relatively math related. And
Heavily math related.
I remember one time the CNC machine was not, so generally, you're just like, okay, you just kind of punch in your math. Someone gives you the measurements for your thread or seal, and you're just like, okay, and you just subtract that or add that on.
Yeah.
But it's like a thousandth of a millimeter, like it's ridiculous.
So big numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it just moves the machine like this much,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but that's what it is. And it wasn't taking in the math. The machine wasn't taking the math. Somebody hurt themselves, and the supervisor had taken that person. We're in the night shift.
Okay.
So my quality assurance guy is like over, he's telling me, and I'm like, it's not taking the math. What do we do? And I'm like, okay, hang on. And I start like writing everything out on paper.
Yeah.
I do the math.
You figured out.
And I figured out like it wasn't taking the math, but I could change the final number in the machine.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just like, all right. And I changed the final number, and he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, I think so.
Well, we got these lights with the magnet stuff.
So well, so we push start, cycle start, and we're just sitting there with our hands over the emergency stop, like, oh man, if this doesn't work. And it worked. And I'm like, I fucking did that, man. That's math right there.
Yeah.
And like, I don't even know what the problem was with the machine, but it was like, okay, so that's how we were doing the rest of it. I'm just doing the math on paper and then changing the final number. And
he's like, so I fucked up a lot of pipe anyway.
Yeah, well, I broke one of the machines once.
Oh.
So I missed a minus sign. So the number is minus this whatever, and then you punch it in.
Yeah.
So if the machine stops here and our piece of pipe is here, I told the machine to like go to like the wall of the shop.
That's amazing.
So the thing just went boom and like hit this thing, and everything broke apart, and it was a bad thing. And like, so thankfully it was like right at the beginning of my shift for the night shift. So like the I want to say mechanic, but not the mechanic, but like I just wrecked it, man. It was so bad. The millwright, like the head millwright or whatever, is still there. He comes and he's like, oh, and he's looking into it, and then also it dawns on me, and I'm like, fuck, man. I was like, I missed the minus sign.
Yeah.
And so I tell him, I'm like, I think this is what happened. And he's like, oh, and he checks the machine and everything. He's like, yep, that's what happened. Nobody gave me any shit about it. Nothing. Next day, we run the day or whatever. That machine's not working, obviously, but we finish the night and everything. And then the day shift comes in the next day. And the next night when I come into work, machine's still broken.
Yeah. And
the general manager comes up, this great older gentleman comes up to talk to me. He's like, hey, the machine's down. He's like, what happened? And I tell him exactly what happened.
Yeah, be honest. Right?
And he's like, did you figure that out, or did they have to tell you? And I was like, no, I was like, after it happened and he was checking on the machine, I thought about what had happened and I realized what I had done wrong. And he's like, okay.
It's impressive.
And he's like, I bet you'll never fucking do that again. And I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And he's like, what the important part is that you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
And you don't do it again. He's like, machines break. And he's like, everyone's okay. And I was like, honestly, I'm just disappointed that the machine's down for like 3 or 4 days now until we can get it fixed. And now I'm not working on a machine. I'm doing grunt work,
Yeah.
you know? And yeah, he was awesome. Like one of those great older guys that super calm, and I mean, really, that's a lesson learned, man. Like you make mistakes, and I never did that again. Like the whole, me telling you I did the math on paper, that was after that fact.
Yeah.
And like for me to push that cycle start, I was confident in my math to be like, hey, like this is gonna work. We're gonna be okay. Because I was like, if that guy, the supervisor took that guy to the hospital because he just hurt himself, and now what? We're gonna sit here for a couple hours while he's out and not produce any pipe at all. I'm like, then he's gonna come back. He's gonna be pissed.
Can't you do the fucking math?
The hell, we hired idiots.
Yeah, that whole "they make more of those every day" attitude. It's like, okay, is anybody hurt? No. Did anything catastrophic happen? No.
Yeah.
Good.
And you know what? While after this, I get brought a picture, and it's a parking lot, and one of the pieces of the machine is sitting in the parking lot. And I'm like, what the fuck are you showing me? And they're like, this happened in the Mexico plant. That guy did the exact same thing that you did. And that piece of the machine went through the roof about 200 yards out in the parking lot and landed there. I'm like, holy shit. So I really could have been hurt. And they were like, yeah, you could have died. And I'm just like, wow, that's incredible.
Thanks for showing me that.
Yeah. And I'm super happy that, I'm not the only one that makes mistakes like that.
Like, I knew everyone does this. They come up there like, you just didn't even fly out of the building.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do a good job.
Everything stayed contained. I mean, it was fine.
Yeah. It's so same with like when I see people working on a lathe where it's spinning, you know what I mean? I'm just waiting for that shit to get projectile out of there.
Right?
Oh man.
Like push that blade in too fast.
Yeah.
Or something gone.
It never happens.
Yeah, man. Oh man. This is actually a sad story. I just found out yesterday, and I remember I was telling you that renovation company that I left.
Yeah.
The nephew left as well. So he called me the day. He's like, I got a story to tell you. There's this guy that we worked with who, one of those guys that just has all the confidence in the world with nothing to really back it up.
All dick and no balls.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, yeah.
I can do everything. I can do anything. And then you're like, can you do this? And then you need someone to like hold his hand while he fucking does it. And you're like, what the fuck? So, anyways, he's telling me a story. He was talking to his uncle who owns the company. And he's like, yeah, so I'm working. And I think they were putting cabinetry in or something like that.
Yeah.
And sends this guy out to cut whatever and just hears him start screaming. Opens the door to the house and he's standing on the other side of the door with snow. And it's all red and bloody. And he's holding it on stuff. He's like, what the fuck happened? He's like, I cut my thumb off. Now, you're in construction. So our first reaction is, fuck off, man. What the fuck really happened? Seriously, my thumb. Apparently cut it like down to like the second knuckle on a table saw.
I cut my thumb off.
I cut my thumb off.
Nope.
I've been thinking about that for days. I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't have shared that on your podcast, man.
I think that's a serious.
I haven't really stopped thinking about it.
What kind of fucking idiot is just standing there holding snow on his? Did he find the thumb?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So the boss said he found it about 20 feet away from the saw because the saw just probably just took it right off. Yeah, and he packed it up, put it on ice. He drove him to the Orangeville hospital, and of course they can't do anything there, so he had to get like ambulance to another hospital, and they reattached it. And I mean, this just happened like recently, so now they're just kind of waiting to see if it takes and if it stays on there, I guess. But
it's crazy.
But oh man, and I think about
lose your light here. You got to plug that computer in.
Okay, no problem. I'm not going to look as cool.
All right, good.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, Uh, so I worked for this shit show of a company when I was living in Orangeville. They had a racing team and a fucking the one guy was being sent to go be a blacksmith, and like they did a lot of wacky shit, and then our checks were bound, like if somebody's checks bounced every week.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So like I would like go buy everyone coffee and like cash my check first.
yeah.
Um
To make sure that you got paid. I just got that.
everyone's like, I can't believe you buy us all coffee. I'm like, you're very welcome.
Yeah. I got paid this week. That's fantastic.
Rent. Yeah. Anyways, so we go up north to Muskoka in a golfing community, like a golfing condo community or whatever.
Yeah.
Or we're redoing the siding, and we have a revolving door of 25 guys in 2 weeks, and we're hiring them 2 at a time.
What?
Yeah. Insane. Lots of quitting because it's wet, and you know, like I get it. And the one fucking guy that stayed was sticking his pencil in the guard of your saw, so the saw would stay open and you could plunge cut with it.
Yeah.
Because we were cutting angles, right?
Oh yeah.
And he stands up and he puts his fucking hand down to his side with the saw still running and no guard on it, and it grabs his pants, and it tears through the pants, it tears through his jeans, and it just gets caught up on his long johns, or like right where that major vein is on the left leg. Like so like I knocked him on his ass. I was so upset, and I was just like, okay, see where that is? You see like what's right underneath that? And he was just like, yeah, oh, you know, and this and that. And I said, I don't give a shit about you, okay? Don't ever make me sit through watching you bleed out while there's nothing I can do. And I fucking walked away. Like, I was so mad.
Oh,
I had never been that mad before on site, where it's like, this idiot just about killed himself. That's so crazy.
yeah.
To save you 2 seconds of flicking your thumb. It was crazy. And then right away I was like, I'm gonna get arrested. and like we were cutting pressure treated. I sent him to the hospital. Like we had to do a whole thing because he hurt himself at work. But
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, doing the right thing sucks. But like, yeah, there wasn't an investigation, but like they had to pay out WSIB and like all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
It was no good.
Well, and that, oh man, this,
It's so scary.
there was the whole WSIB and like having to deal with that. He's holding the thing back. He's holding the guard back
With a pencil.
Yeah. So WSIB could just be like, nope, sorry.
Yeah, I guess. But
You
we're
know?
allowing it.
Well,
And then
well, yeah,
who's
okay.
actually on charge on this site, because it wasn't me in the books, but it was me.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff that can go wrong there. I used to work for the Edmonton airport, not for the airport, but worked for a company that worked in the airport. I like to say I lost luggage professionally.
Nice.
Um,
we all appreciate that.
Yeah. Actually, I was one of the better ones, to be honest. It was kind of crazy. Sometimes it was like a bag would come down, and like I would work in the bag room for a good portion of my employment there.
Sure.
And yeah, a bag would come down, and I'd be like, "Oh, a bag's down for this flight. I'll go run it out. Like the flight's about to leave."
Yeah.
And like the guys that I only worked there for like a year or two or something, the guys that have been there forever, like, nah, it's not making the fucking flight.
Fuck that bag.
And I'm like, are you serious? Because like it hasn't left yet. Like I've got this radio right here that I can be like, hey guys, this bag just came in, and then they'll put it right on the plane. No, it's not going.
No.
Like I'll radio the flight. It's okay.
Yeah. They're like, open it up. Is there anything in there we should?
Yeah. Oh fuck. But so yeah, we used to do.
That's the epitome of not my job.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was union. That was the issue. We were union. So yeah, we did tap matches.
Cool.
So if anybody had any, problems with each other, we
Yeah.
would wrestle until someone tapped out.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
It's like jujitsu,
Yeah,
kind of.
it was sick, actually.
Yeah.
So number 2 in seniority, this old guy who
Just choking everyone
a
out.
great guy. No. He was like, he did a tap match. I can't remember who it was with, man. And like, he just went down and fucking snapped his ankle. And the first words out of his mouth are, "We got to get our story straight." And fucking, we're in the lunchroom, so everyone's there. And like,
This is not happening during a wrestling match.
No,
There's no such thing as a tap out.
certainly not. Certainly not. So everyone in the lunchroom that like didn't want to be a part of this all left, and then there was like, the few people that stayed so that everyone could, figure out the story of what happened, so that he could go to WSIB and be like, "Wow, this is how I broke my ankle in one of the less stressful jobs I've ever seen in my life. You could work a 9-hour shift and put in like an hour and a half worth of work. Working at the airport is ridiculous."
For anyone at the government listening, this is actually a story of one of his friends that was not him.
No, definitely not me.
Definitely not.
Never broken ankle. I've never broken a bone, actually.
Really? I broke my wrist twice and that's it.
Really?
And it was trying to catch my big ass body.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's
They're like, stop doing that.
You're gonna fall on your shoulders, man.
That's what they said. They're like, you see your enormous frame, you tuck your hands in. But for the first 2 big falls I had, I broke my wrist. Same one.
Oh shit!
Yeah, and then he was like, stop.
Yeah, it's natural reaction to put your wrists out to catch yourself, man. Yeah.
Dumbass. It's like trying to catch something heavy when it lets go. You're like, you're not doing that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just fucking let go.
Working at that machine shop, I remember that we were cutting cutting a pipe. Sorry, on the saw, big 9 5/8, huge pipe, and like it cut, but obviously it wasn't balanced in the crane or whatever. Dumbass me, like trying to hold it, and it just like lifted me off the ground. Like, oh yeah, this is probably like back like 60 pounds ago or something like that.
Ta-da.
At least, yeah. And they're like, just let it go, man. And yeah, my boss tells me that, like, hey man, like if something ever like that happens, like just let it go. It's a fucking pipe, opposed to your life.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I guess so. I didn't really look at it like that.
Yeah, I in one of my 1,000 jobs before I like figured out what I wanted to do, I worked at a steel place, and you had like a sucker ring on, and there would be like 100, like, I don't know, 3x3 pieces of metal, and you would slap the corner with the sucker ring, and it would just pull that one piece up enough, and then you would grab it.
Oh
and
yeah.
get the air underneath it.
Yeah.
And then put it in. There'd be a bunch of pegs. You'd kind of figure out where it went, and it would get stamped. But they would say hands off, and when you did that, you went like this. That was part of the training.
Okay.
Because if somebody saw something like that, they would just say that, and you would right away put your hands up. And like there were a few times where you would hear that, look over, and then something would go, oh, and you were like, fuck, that would have been his hand.
Oh god.
Yeah, it was super sketchy.
Yeah.
I was only there for a couple of weeks. There were 2 guys that were like, I don't know, fresh out of jail, I would think. And we weren't allowed.
Potential drywallers.
Yeah, they were on their ways to be roofers anyways. And they used to scream Slipknot, because this one dickhead that was working there wouldn't let us have our headphones in. We would have to have the earbud, like ear protection in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the 2 of them. Just the whole shift, man. And I loved it. I think that scared the shit out of everyone else. I really enjoyed it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And then my 3rd day on site, we had steak and lobster day as like a yearly appreciation day. I got paid the whole day to like fuck around and drink beer with these guys. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, that sounds wicked.
Well, we got 5 minutes left here, buddy.
5 minutes left. Holy moly. Time is flying.
So that's 4 parts.
Wow.
Basically 40 minutes apart.
That's incredible.
We did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, there are people, actually, there's been a lot of people on here that I could have gone over and over and over. We'll just have to have you back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to have back, or I'd love to be back, of course.
Yeah, I think I'd like to have you back to pause.
Oh yeah.
That'd be dope.
A 2-person?
Yeah.
A twofer.
Oh, two for. I was actually gonna ask him to come back, but I only have the 2 setups.
Oh, okay.
If I had 3, that would have been.
Yeah, I was totally gonna be like, yeah, Fozzie can come if he wants. That'd be cool.
And I was gonna ask him to, but then what? He's just so.
Yeah. Hey guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
He puts
awesome.
his hand up, and we're like, okay. And then he said this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. He's great too.
Yeah.
Same kind of conversation as this, where it just kind of like tangles into itself. And
Oh, I bet.
yeah.
Even like talking to him tonight and
Oh,
the
yeah.
Fresco Harmony thing, just an
Yeah,
easy
you
guy to
guys
talk
never
to.
spent any time together.
Not really, no.
Yeah, isn't that weird? It's
That's-
so natural.
That's why I was really hoping to you know, when he said that he had those 3-ways and he was like, yeah, just text me and come get him. I was like, sick, man. Like, I'll get to come over and just kind of hang out for a couple minutes. And
He's that kind of guy.
and it's so funny because we were talking about Christy Slade and how I thought she was from the States.
Yeah,
Then
it's so
he
weird.
did that 3-way thing and she was there, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. She flew down for that 3-way.
Yeah, man, that's I want to do more and more of that. The people that are living around us, and we seem to all be alike.
Yeah,
So how many more of us are out here?
Yeah,
And let's just fucking.
probably a bunch.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my thought with the wing nights of like, everybody invite one more person.
Yeah,
And then we do it once a month or once every other month or once a quarter.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, the CSR stuff's gonna pick up too. That's really gonna bring a lot of them out.
yeah. I really want to be a part of that stuff because I mean, like I said, I don't get to go there as often as I want to.
And you don't have to go there for materials and stuff if you just work it around every other month. Like
Yeah.
pick up all your shit when you go.
Oh,
And then we're going to have fun.
Yeah, honestly, like when I order online from there, but it's like, all right, I got to make sure I order $500 for this stuff. Otherwise, I got to pay for shipping, which shipping is like $30. But I'm like, I got $200 for the stuff. What's another $300 for this stuff?
Brad appreciates that shit.
I can figure it out.
All right, so Nathan's Drywall. Yeah, I know we just did this on the Columbia one.
Yeah,
but,
sorry.
Yeah, what are your
Instagram, Nathan's Drywall, Facebook, Nathan Binkle.
Yeah.
And nathansdrywall.ca is my website.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
If somebody wants something quoted from you, how do they do that?
They can get a hold of me on the website.
Good.
I mean, Facebook Messenger.
Yep.
As well. People seem to get a hold of me on that, I think.
It's a lot that comes from Facebook.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, 60% of it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Awesome, man. That was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, man. That was good dinner. He got his corner cobra today. Hopefully by the time this comes out, we'll have lots of content.
Yeah.
Good. Be humble. Treat everyone the same and do your fucking job.